On Halloween night, 1974, in Deer Park, Texas, Ronald O'Brien took his son, Timothy O'Brien, and his daughter, Elizabeth O'Brien, trick-or-treating with their neighbor and his own kids. Now, the group could only trick-or-treat on 2 different streets due to rainy weather that day, but other than that, everyone was having fun. There was one house in the neighborhood, though, that was kind of suspicious. The kids went to the house to get some candy, but no one seemed to answer. Being impatient kids, they went to the next house for some candy. Ronald eventually caught up to them and pulled out 5 big pixie sticks. It turns out the neighbor was actually home and handing out candy. Once Ronald and his kids were home and ready for bed, Ronald's son asked if they could have some candy. Ronald said that they could, but they could only have 1 piece of candy before bed. Timothy chose the jumbo pixie stick. When he was consuming it, he noted that it tasted bitter, but Ronald didn't really think much of it and gave his son some Kool-Aid to wash it down. Timothy immediately started complaining about stomach pain. His symptoms included vomiting and convulsions. The medics were called, but sadly, Timothy would die on the way to the hospital. So, what happened to Timothy O'Brien? The medical examiner said that he could smell the scent of almonds coming from the boy's mouth. There's one chemical that's said to have this distinct smell, cyanide. An autopsy confirmed that Timothy had consumed enough potassium cyanide to kill 2 or 3 full-grown adults. When word spread about this incident in the community, it caused massive panic. Many parents were taking their kids' candy to the police station, believing it had been laced with poison. The police had to act quick and retrieve the other jumbo pixie sticks. The 3 other unconsumed pixie sticks were recovered, which were confirmed to have been laced with cyanide. However, there was 1 more pixie stick, which was given to Ronald's neighbor's son. The parents were hysterical that their son had the last pixie stick. They rushed to their son's room to find him asleep, peacefully, with an unopened pixie stick. Their son was unable to open it. All 5 pieces of candies were examined and found to have at least 2 inches worth of cyanide towards the top of each stick. So now the question remains, who committed these horrible acts, and why? Ronald and the police retraced their steps 3 times, until landing on the house Ronald claimed and gave out the pixie sticks. The man who lived there, Courtney Melvin, was interrogated by the police. And what happened next was shocking to everyone. Let's go back to the beginning. The kids went to Mr. Melvin's house to get some candy, but no one seemed to answer. Being impatient kids, they went to the next house for some candy. Ronald eventually caught up to them and pulled out 5 big pixie sticks. It turns out the neighbor was actually home and handing out candy. Except, Mr. Melvin wasn't home. Ronald O'Brien lied. Mr. Melvin was an air traffic controller. He couldn't have been home until very late on Halloween night. Over 200 people confirmed that he was indeed at work. Mr. Melvin and his rock-solid alibi removed him as a suspect, and all eyes were on one person, Ronald. Upon investigation, they discovered that Ronald was over $100,000 in debt, which is about $550,000 in today's economy. Maybe a little bit more. He didn't have a stable job, his car was about to be repossessed, the family's home was going to be foreclosed, and he was going to be fired from his position as an optician. And it just so happened that he had also taken multiple life insurances on both of his children, and on the morning of November 1st, literally the morning after his son's death, he called the insurance company to claim his son's life insurance. It was also discovered that Ronald had gone to different chemical companies asking for cyanide. They searched his home and found a pocket knife with candy residue on it, similar to the contaminated pixie sticks. The police concluded this was how the candy was contaminated. He had even given the poisoned candy to his neighbor's children in order to cover his tracks. On November 5th, 1974, Ronald O'Brien was arrested and charged for the murder of his own son, Timothy O'Brien. Ronald maintained innocence and even tried twice to appeal to the Supreme Court, but it was denied. His only defense was based on the urban legend about people lacing candy with poison or drugs, but that never really has held any water, even today. His wife divorced him and rejected her ex-husband's claim that Timothy chose the pixie sticks. She believes that Ronald forced him to eat it. On June 3, 1975, Ronald was sentenced to death, and he would be dubbed the Candyman. Even until his final moments, he maintained his innocence and didn't confess to anything. On March 31, 1984, Ronald OBrien was executed by lethal injection. A crowd of 300 people gathered outside yelling "trick or treat" and cheering for his death. This was the end for the man who ruined Halloween. Hey guys, Starless Midnight here. I want to thank you for watching, and if you made it this far, I want to wish you all a safe and merry Halloween. And to all, a good fright.